Game of Stonks.
We have a lot to cover.
GameStop stock frenzy causes chaos on Wall Street.
They're stonks, Maggie. Stonks.
Stonks.
I'm not cool enough to use that phrase, guys.
Get on the internet, Maggie.
I just feel like a total poser if I tried.
Stonks.
Stonks.
Stonks. Stonks.
Stonks.
All right, we've got a lot to cover, and it's going to be a wild ride. So if you haven't been following the news cycle, this might all come as a surprise to you, but a merry band of rogue, self-proclaimed autists, degenerates, and retards took the world by storm when they basically staged a Capitol riot against the Wall Street boys and the hedge funds.
What?
There was a showdown this week between a subreddit, Wall Street Bets, which is, if you don't even know what a subreddit is, get on the freaking internet and school yourself. But it's basically a category within the webpage Reddit. I'm trying to explain this to my grandma.
R/, as the kids call it.
As the kids call it, r/. And maybe they don't even call it that anymore now that an old on YouTube is calling it r/. Essentially, we had a David versus Goliath kind of situation happening between Reddit and retail investors versus Wall Street and hedge funds. The battle of Main Street versus Wall Street, and it was fought over stocks like AMC and GameStop. For those of you who don't understand what's going on beyond what I just mentioned, there's plenty of resources on the internet and articles that are actually news sites not like ours that will explain this in great length and detail. But the short story, no pun intended, is that a bunch of hedge funds decided to short GameStop. If you don't know what shorting a stock means, I get ya. It doesn't make any sense. It's counterintuitive. I'm not exactly sure how it's legal, but it basically means that you're betting on a stock will fail. You're borrowing a share that's not yours, you're selling it at market price, and then you're giving it back, hoping that in between you selling it at market price and you having to return that share that you borrowed, the stock drops and then you buy it at a lesser price and you pocket the difference. It's complicated. And like I said, it's counterintuitive because most people are like, you buy stocks, they go up, they go down. The thing about short stocks or shorting a stock or short selling is that it's infinite loss. So if suddenly you borrow the stock at $10, you go take it to the market, you're banking on it dropping so that you can make that sweet, sweet 10D difference. Then people start buying the stock, the price starts going up. Now you've got to return that share that you borrowed no matter what. If suddenly the price starts going up, you are going to have to pay for it, which is exactly what happened with GameStop. So a bunch of crafty little autists on Reddit, God bless these little artards, they are the heroes that we need in 2021, realized that GameStop was heavily shorted over 100%, which is very rare. So they decided to band together and start buying the stock, leaving all of these hedge funds completely f***ed because they're driving the price up. The hedge funds are going to have to pay. The difference, whatever that difference is, it ended up costing some of these hedge funds billions of dollars. In fact, one, Melvin, went bankrupt and needed to get floated loans from other hedge funds to just stay afloat. So it caused chaos on Wall Street. These self-described retards are doing God's work. They're kind of like the bad news bears of the internet, and their hero is Deep Fucking Value. So Deep Fucking Value is kind of the mastermind behind this, who noticed this about GameStop, put the word out there, and it just started this movement over really the course of a year. And their motto is, we can remain retarded longer than they can remain solvent.
That's brilliant.
Just amazing.
It's amazing. That was blunt_person's quote. Basically, these subredditors figured out how to play the game and beat the Wall Street people at their own game. Everything they're doing is legal. It's all playing by their rules. And they just found a loophole and decided to stick it to the man. And God bless them. But what happened was this thing where they actually were like, hey, we can make some money on this. They could make money on this. Became a movement. And suddenly everybody got behind it. Just random people. I mean, I knew that it had completely gone mainstream when Sam was sending me Robinhood.
Memes.
Yeah, no, not memes. Links. It was like her referral code. Sam is she's my Instagram girl.
I'm
like,
your
what is
litmus
she?
test.
Yeah. Once it reaches Sam, I'm like, holy shit.
She's the basic bitch to litmus test.
Yeah, she's my basic
Uggs
bitch.
and my Diet Coke.
The reason I think this movement started, they all got behind this, and then it started becoming something bigger because a lot of this goes back to the 2008, 2009 bailouts. One of the Wall Street bets wrote a letter and said that this goes back to his rage at the banks and the bailout, and he had a long story about how families and entire people got screwed. They lost their houses on the mortgage-backed securities. They lost their livelihoods, and the banks got bailed out. The hedge funds got bailed out, and people were completely screwed. And not only that, they were like, oh, it's your responsibility. You shouldn't have borrowed a house if you didn't know you could pay for it, even though they were given these loans. So this is what started the Occupy Wall Street movement. If you don't know what that is, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez made me feel super old by explaining it to the children on Twitch recently.
There were these huge, really inspiring protests that happened about 10 years ago. This rhetoric around the 99% and the 1% in our economy that get all of the gains. That rhetoric actually comes directly from the Occupy Wall Street protests.
The seeds of this movement go back to 2008. A lot of these people who are on the subreddit were kids, and now they're grown up. And they're mad. They're rightfully mad. I give millennials and Zoomers a lot of shit for being entitled and whiny, but here's the truth. They put up with a fucking ridiculous amount of gaslighting from the boomers when it comes to the largest instance of intergenerational theft that's probably ever occurred in like the history of moving wealth from one generation to another. This also goes back to the Fed, who we could probably blame for all of this problem. Because when the Fed bails out banks for $4 trillion and we float the bill, the taxpayers, it's called banking. And when a bunch of savvy little rascals online play the game and beat them at it, they call it market manipulation, which brings us to what happened with Robinhood and other retail investors. So Robinhood is what we would call a retail investor. That means instead of being with one of these hedge funds, Robinhood opened it up so that the average person like you or me can open a Robinhood account and become a couch surfing day trader. And a lot of people got into investing this way. It just made trading easy. After this all went mainstream, this is when Sam was sending me the referrals Wednesday night. I was like, this has been really fun today on Wednesday, and it felt inspiring. You know, there was something like, yeah!
Stick it to the man.
And there's so much rage. And I've been saying this all summer, all for a year now, that this whole race war is really just a mask for the class war, which is underneath all of it. They will happily have us fighting amongst ourselves over race, while the people who are in banking and making all these rules and owning everything, and as George Carlin just brilliantly put in his very famous stand-up routine, and they don't care about us. They use us as pawns. And if we've learned anything from 2020 and the pandemic and the lockdowns, it's that we are just pawns no one is coming. Anyway, Robinhood decided in the morning that they would restrict people from buying GameStop and other volatile stocks that were being traded. Meme stonks, as we call them online, the cool kids.
You Redditors.
I'm not a Redditor. Now I'm like a grandma on Reddit. There have been really great quotes by people much smarter than me about this stuff. Charles Payne said, "The stock market is not in turmoil. Billionaire hedge funds are in turmoil. Two different things. It's a shame regulators, brokerage firms, and media continue to provide cover for folks that go to work on helicopters from the Hamptons and say it's for folks that take the subway." That is the heart of this. So these little bitches who couldn't handle losing their game that they set up basically basically turned over the table and were like, we're not going to play anymore. And somehow Robinhood did their bidding, which they came out and said it was because they had to cover their liquidity, which is complicated and I won't bore you with it. And that could be true. I don't doubt that there is a reasonable explanation, although it doesn't explain why other retail investor sites did the same. But I'm sure there are other forces much bigger than us because we are the low little men on this totem pole that are at work that we might never know about, although now Congress is probably going to investigate. So all hell breaks loose on Thursday. It's bananas. People are trying to trade. They can't. When Sam sent me the link, I just put some money in solidarity. A lot of people did that. I know that someone's going to be left holding the bag. It's probably people at the very end of this trend, which is you and me. There are people who are hoping to make a buck. You probably won't. This is like, think of it as going to Vegas. And if you can lose some money in solidarity for this, great. But you're probably not going to make those millions of dollars that you're thinking you might make. Just a warning to you folks. So I put some money in for solidarity and then woke up, lo and behold, and all of my orders had been canceled by Robinhood. It was shady as f. That's the other crazy thing, the Stockholm syndrome and normalcy bias. And this is what they were saying over Black Lives Matter and why I understood what Chappelle was saying. This is the streets talking. Again, this is another instance. If the system has always worked for you, you went to an Ivy League school, now you're in the media, now you're a pundit, you do journalism for the markets. You have no reason to think that this system might be trying to screw you. Why would you? It's your factory settings. But for most of us, we realize that we're $400 away from being broke at all given moments. And every month is a hustle of figuring out how to do it. And just when you start getting ahead, there's some fucking bill that comes along that puts you back. So it's a system designed to keep you behind constantly. And that rage is real in America. With health insurance, failing education, almost everyone's in college debt. There are so many systemic problems that are underneath this class war, and the divide has never been larger between the rich and the poor in this country. Do some reading on history and see how that usually turns out. So, all hell breaks loose. Then everybody starts jumping in. Elon Musk jumps in because he traditionally hates short selling because the hedge funds have shorted his stock in an attempt to bring down the value. And he jumps in and starts giving support to these little rascals. AOC jumps in. Ted Cruz jumps in. Mark Cuban says something about it. So suddenly it has really gone mainstream. Now they're having to explain in the Wall Street Journal and Barron's what stonks and tendies. I mean, the articles themselves, diamond hands are to all of their readers. And I could not stop laughing and smiling with glee at these Ivy League people. You can almost see their Ivy League education sweating out of their bodies as they had to report on this shit. It is so chef's kiss. It's just amazing. Just having to even say, deep fucking value. We're living in a simulation. We 100% have to be at this point. It has been a dumpster fire, and I am here for it, and I am here for these kids making their tendies. They deserve this shit more than anyone I know. And you know what's even crazier is that they put a little thread out there and said, what would you do with the wealth if you had wealth? What do you want to do with any money you make off this? And every single answer, almost every single one, is something for somebody else, paying off college debt, buying their parents their house, making someone's life easier, setting up their kids. Almost 99% of these responses are people who are like, I don't really even need to be rich. I just want to be okay. I just want to help the people I love. A lot of people are like, oh, these kids, they're not kids. They're young adults. They're just trying to make a quick buck and it's a Ponzi scheme. Stop projecting your greed onto all of these people who are just in it for the lulz. A lot of it is just hilarious. My friend Cassie Dillon, I think, had the best analysis. And she said, here's the simple fact. This started on the internet, and the internet will keep anything going that's funny. And as long as this is funny, it will keep going.
That's a great point.
And it's so true. Every day she's like, it's still funny. It's just fantastic to me that they were like, hey, you know, you can make a lot of money out of this $600 if you invest it right, when they gave us our $600 pennies for 9 months. We were given $600 for 9 months. Why on earth would people be enraged and cheering for these little rascals online taking down Wall Street? I don't know, because everybody's been locked down. When are they going to realize that people have nothing to do but overthrow their government at this point? It's also great because it's exposed the lie that these are free markets. Everyone's always told, like, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, kids, invest that $600. Well, they did, and the minute they do, they're like, no, not like that. There were lots of memes going around. Like, oh, you're sad? You're sad because you're losing your game? Here's $600. Good luck. Maybe you can live off this for 9 months. And it exposes that lie that, okay, here are the free markets. And the minute they engage, play the game, play by the rules that they themselves set, they instantly are trying to throttle them, stop everybody from playing the game. And they're like, oh, we don't want the poors actually playing this game. They figured us out.
Yeah, they're starting to win. We've got to shut it down.
They're like, shut it down, shut it down. This is the other thing. The media does so much water carrying for, well, who's paying their bills. Follow the money, always follow the money. The media is carrying so much water for the hedge funds. You know, they're like, well, it's for their own good. A lot of people are these poor idiots are going to lose a lot of money. Yeah, let them lose money. Let them make mistakes. I'm so fucking tired of my government and everybody trying to tell me what is good for me and what to do. You don't know what's good for these people. Maybe they won't lose money. Maybe they'll make $1,000 and that's enough to pay their bill or something. Like, who are you to tell them how to spend and waste their money? You're allowed to set our money on fire if we want to. This is America. So they're saying, oh, this is for their own good. No. What happened on Thursday was not for your own good. If hedge funds knew that these little poors were going to just set their money on fire and it wasn't going to cost them a penny, they would have let them do so and laughed at their cocktail party in the Hamptons about how dumb all these plebs are for falling for this trap. So don't think for 2 seconds that this is for your good. It's not. It's bullshit. If they weren't losing money, nobody would care. All I know is that these little Redditors, they united America in a way that not Biden, not Bernie, not anybody could do. It was beautiful. And if anything can unite Americans, it's money. What's great about this is that it's been such a young revolution. It is a revolution. The world is changing. So if you're feeling pessimistic, even if the freshly shined boot comes down on all of this, the world is changing in ways that they cannot stop. These are old towers, they're old systems. They can't keep up with us. It's a young, energetic movement. And actually what's happening in the past week gave me a lot of hope for humanity and for our society. One other thing that drives me insane in my little monologue about this. We were locked up, dying, going broke, losing businesses, and terrified for 9 months. And the whole time they were bragging about how great the stock market was doing, showing us that the stock market has nothing to do with the economy at all. There's nothing to do with Main Street. And the Wall Street has in fact been eating Main Street and vampiring on it forever. Who the fuck bets against brick and mortar businesses in a pandemic? These greedy, insane, ruthless dip who work at hedge funds and wear whale belts do. You know who I'm talking about. You feeling like they're looking down at us and laughing at us is not wrong. They are. They absolutely are. They absolutely think they're better than us. They absolutely think that we are just little plebs at the bottom of the pyramid. And even though that might be true, and we are going to laugh at them while we rise up on Reddit, take the world by storm, and watch them lose billions of dollars to a bunch of posters online. And these little rascals, they held until Friday. They made me want to cry. And this is why I'm giving them the BDE award. Those brave little rascals are holding because holding makes them part of something big. It makes them part of something important. there might be spoils of war and they might be the casualty. That is the truth in this situation, which is also why they get the BDE award, because they are truly brave. And some of them now do have something to lose. They have made millions of dollars and yet they hold. But they were already doomed. So when you have nothing to lose but the scraps from a rich man's table, well, a man's got to have his pride. And that is why they're still holding. And that is why I will hold with them. And you should too. No matter what happens, it looks like some of those hedge fund bros are going to have to sleep with their wives tonight. I love it because now that you can't blame Trump for everything, it's going to be pretty hard to hide this class war. You can't use him for a scapegoat. It backs a lot of people into a corner.
Yeah.
People who proclaim to care about the little guy but have their bills paid by these hedge funds and billionaires are going to be backed into a nice little corner by the retards on Reddit. Dun, da, da.